So to round it all out, we're going to go ahead and do a series of steps that sort of show you how to use all the things we've talked about in one video. I'm going to move through this fairly quickly, so feel free to pause and rewind, jump back and forth, and that way you'll be able to kind of see exactly what I'm doing. But I want to make sure that you can see all the tools being used in the setup of your service, in the context of creating a show or an event, or even a church service, of course. So here we go. I'm going to begin by creating a new Q stack. We're going to call this our master Q stack. I'm going to make the first Q a mark Q. What a mark Q does is it brings all of our lights that transition badly to black. So I'm just only programming intensity information into the first Q. I'm going to make this Q a 1 second Q, and then I'm going to go ahead and add a second Q. Second Q is going to be called, I usually just give this a couple of lines, or you could call it AF if you wanted to, for auto follow. I'm just going to give it a couple of dashes just because it's a Q we can ignore. I'm going to change the mode on this to follow. I'm going to hit OK. On this follow Q, we want to make sure this has a 0 time. And then we also want to make sure that we put everything about our light into this Q. So what I'm going to do is select all of my spots, and I'm going to choose the default or home preset for all functions of the light. An even better way to do this might be to create an all preset that you can update later, just in case. So I'm going to do that now, actually. I'm going to go to my presets, all, and I'm going to make sure that I home everything about these lights. And I'm just going through very quickly and homing everything. Another thing that you might want to do, and you can track along and see what you've brought into the Q stack by just looking in the timeline. You'll be able to see all the information that you're adding. So custom position, intensity, color, gobo wheel. I want to make sure we get beam as well, so I'm going to hit home there too. And you see that got all the beam information and frame. So that's great. That's exactly what I want. I want all the information for these lights that transition badly, these spot fixtures, to end up in this Q. All right. In the next Q, this is going to be our start Q. This might be the walk-in look. This might be the welcome look. This might be your first song. I don't know. It could be a number of different things. I'm just going to build a nice look. I'm going to leave the start timing for this at 2 seconds, and I'm going to make this Q a halt. Okay, so what we want to do is fade in. I'm going to back up a step though, because I want to make sure we set our lights up a little bit better. So I'm going back to Q2. I'm going to turn them on for a second, and I'm going to put them in a position. We made a nice one earlier. Let's look at what our position options are. There's our fans look. That'll look nice. I'm also going to make sure we give it a color. I want to get an amber in there, so I'm going to go ahead and put a nice tone of amber in, a little light amber. And I'm going to create a new preset so that we have that for later. Okay, hit OK. Now we have our amber preset. Oh, also, on this first Q, it might be nice to have a pattern come in. So I'm going to add the pattern, make sure the lights are in focus, and I'm going to zoom them in. This is looking like a great look. All right, I'm going to bring those back to black in Q2, because remember, this is a mark Q. Now, in Q3, we're going to jump to that. You'll see them fade in. Maybe also on Q3, we want the zoom to expand, but we want that to happen gracefully. Well, I'll just jump over to the timeline briefly, and I'm going to make our beam information go a little bit slower. You can do it by selecting all of this, or you can just expand the timing area, go to beam, and make that 4 seconds. All right, great. Everything will come up in 2 seconds, and the beam will expand in 4. Gives us a little bit nicer option there. Okay, also in Q3, I want to make sure that we add our X4 bars. And in the same way that we kind of did Q2 where we brought in all the information, we want to do the same thing here. So I'm just going to go through and hit home for all of these things. Some options aren't available on this fixture, so I think I've got all of them at this point. I'll bring them to 100. And I need to make a preset that brings them down into a nice straight out look. So I'll create a new preset called straight down. Great. All right, so they're there. I want to zoom them all the way out, and I want to make their color amber, just like we did before. You can see how that amber preset was a global preset that can apply to not just our spots, but also our wash lights. It might be nice to have that in a darker tone though, so I'm going to go ahead and make it a little bit darker, and we're going to create a new preset. We're going to call this dark amber. All right, choose my dark amber preset. That's looking nice. All right, also in my start cue, I might want my band lights to come up. So I'm going to go ahead and select those now, and I'm going to have them fade in. Oh, I just realized LECO number 2 and 5 are doing my center position. So I'm going to leave those off. I'm going to bring up 3 and 4. And that'll get my 2 band guys on either side. Good to go. All right, so that's that cue. Now we're going to go ahead and create another cue. Oh wait, we had some cool extracts earlier that we used. I wonder if we could try them. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click our extract. I'm going to make a selection. I'm going to choose the fan from center mode, and I'm going to choose the extract. It's going to ask me if I want to insert it. I'm going to try inserting it and see what happens. Okay, it pops to white, changes to red, and then fades those lights out. Maybe that could be the end of our song. Maybe there's a nice flash in or a nice flash hit at the end. All right, great. I'm going to go ahead and store that as the flash. I'm going to go ahead and make these next cues follow though, so that I don't have to trigger them at all. I'm just going to make them follow. I'm just going to go ahead and click on these red areas that say halt and just change them to follow and hit OK. Now let's preview all of that. I'm going to back up 3 steps. I'm going to go ahead and hit flash and watch the steps happen automatically so that I don't have to do anything. Okay, now in our next step, I need to make sure that our lead singer fades in. All right, I'm going to go ahead and add that step. Remember, this is sort of a fictitious way to program, so I don't know if we're going in the right order or not, but we're just creating cool looks. All right, so we'll call this lead singer in. Great. And we'll grab our 2 lead singer lights, bring them to full, and maybe we want to add a couple backlights like we did earlier. Add a couple backlights. Oh, I don't have a position for that. Let's make that really quick. I'll hold yellow. Oh, my fan mode is on. Let's get rid of that. I'll hold yellow, and I'll make those backlights go to the right location and change color to white. Now we've got a nice look for our lead singer to come in. Let's preview that. I'm going to back up 1 step and hit play. Now we can see how that transitions in. One nice thing here is we might want the position to happen in 0 time. That way, we don't see the lights move as they fade in. Again, you can select that here on the timeline, or you can just expand this little area as long as you're in the correct cue with the yellow box around it, and you can change the timing of the position line. I'm just going to make that 0. Boop. Done. All right, now let's preview the cue and see how we like it. I'm going to hit play, and you saw the lights rush into position. We still saw them move a little bit, so what I'm going to do is add just a ½ second of delay on the front end of that. Okay, I just slid these events over a little bit. Let's preview it and try it. Boom. Now we didn't see them move at all. That's great. Okay, we're into that. All right, now let's create a step where the band fades to black and all the rest of the lights fade on like they would in a talk look. All right, let's just add a step. We'll call this talk look. All right, actually we need to have our fade to black first, sorry. Fade to black. So we've created our fade to black, but we actually are just gonna make the floor lights fade to blue. I'm gonna have that happen over 3 seconds. We're gonna call it good. We're gonna step back one step, make sure we preview it, hit play. Oh yeah, we love the way that looks. That's looking great. Okay, now our next step is gonna be our talk look. I'm gonna hit play. I'm gonna add our talk look. All right, talk look is here. Let's go ahead and fade up our lights so that we can light up the stage beautifully. Oh man, they're all in the wrong color, so let's fix them really quick. Let's go ahead and make them our light amber. Let's go ahead and put them in the X's position. I don't know, one of these might work. And then let's go ahead and transition our wash lights over to our amber. Yeah, probably our amber. And then once we have that set, we may want to bring those down so they're not blinding the audience. Set them down nice and low in the background. And that's going to be our talk look. Now, you're going to notice one thing. I'm not going to put our Licos or our front light into this look. We want to put that on a separate handle so we can manually control it. There may be a video that plays later and we may need to just pull that out but leave the backlight on. So this is a great opportunity to talk about how to deal with front light and how to put that on separate faders. I'm going to go ahead and close this cue list. It's going to ask me, do you want to name it? And I'm going to call it Sunday Service. I'm going to hit save and release. And now that Sunday Service is sitting in our cue list area, in our cue list pool. I'm going to drag Sunday Service to fader 1, and we can go ahead and call it up and press play a second time to actually see the first cue. You notice everything faded in place. We didn't have anything swinging in or transitioning poorly. It all looked great. I'm going to go ahead and release it one more time just so you can see it fade in with the fader up this time. Fader's up, hitting the first cue, automatically transitions to Q2. We'll hit Q3, and all of a sudden we have all of our lights in place. I didn't like how those wash lights swung down on us. So I'm going to go ahead and copy the position information into Q2. Best way to do that is to hold yellow to edit the cue stack. I'm going to click the select button at the top of the cue stack. That'll take us back into our editor. We can go into our fixture chooser, and under position, we can expand and see our 12 X4 bars. I'm going to go ahead and cut that information out of there. So I'm going to hit Command X, which is going to cut it. I'm going to back up a step, and I'm going to paste it. So Command V to paste. Now we have those lights right where we need them. And I'm going to close out of there again. I'm going to save and release. And then let's preview that one more time. That's looking good. They came up in the right location and they zoomed out slowly, which looked nice. That's our first look. All right, now we go into our second look. We get our flash and our fade. And then our third look. The backlight comes on. I think there's one slight problem. I'm just going to adjust these to make sure that they're all facing down in this 0.5 Q and that they're in black. That's better. Okay. Now, I'm going to go ahead and try out the first cue. Oh yeah, that looks exactly like what we programmed. Great. Okay. Step 2, our flash runs and it goes to red, fades out. Great, there's our extract. Step 3, our lead singer is in. Step 4, we're fading to black, fading to blue really, and then we're going to our talk look. But we don't have our lecos in yet. All right, that all looks like what we want it to be. I'm gonna go ahead and save and release. Let's go ahead and get our lecos programmed. I'm gonna jump over to the main page and let's go ahead and put a couple of our lecos in for band and a couple of our lecos in for the center wash. Let's do the center wash first. We're going to start by selecting our center stage fixtures. We're going to bring them to full, and we're going to use the store all function, and we're going to tap the fader that we want them to go on. Tap the select button at the top of the fader. It's going to bring focus to the correct cue list. We're going to go ahead and hit 0 time, and we're going to hit OK. We can then clear out. We can also look over here, and if we bring that fader to full and back down, we can see that it's in control of our center lights already. That's great. That's exactly what we want. Now, we're going to clear that out. Now let's get our band lights put in. I'm going to go ahead and grab those 4 lights, and same thing. I'm going to hit Store All, and I'm going to select the next fader available. I'm going to hit OK. Same thing, we want to make sure this is a 0 timing cue. Hit OK. All right, we can jump over to our console view and see, there they are. There's our band lights. The only thing we didn't do was name these. So I'm going to right-click on the cue list, and I'm going to name it. This can happen pretty easily. We can just go to cue list properties, and there should be an opportunity to name it right there. There's also a myriad of other options in here that will be really helpful to know about. I would encourage you to take a look at them and try them. They're all fairly self-explanatory. I'm going to go ahead and name this Center. Hit OK. I'm going to right-click here, and I'm going to hit Cue List Properties. I'm going to name this. This is our band wash. Great. Now we have our 2 faders. We can bring them up. There's our center, there's our band, and fade out. The one cue list property that I wanted to mention in here that we should be sure to use for our front wash is ignore snapshots. If we turn that on, every time a snapshot gets played, it's not going to affect our front wash. We want to be really careful that we never leave the passer in black. I'm going to go ahead and set that same option for both of these cue lists. We're going to go cue list properties and ignore snapshots. Okay, great. Those are all set. Now let's go ahead and set our snapshot for our first cue. I'm going to go ahead and back up our cue stack by holding green and hitting the back arrow. That way we're sitting on cue 1. I'm going to not touch our center or band lights, and I'm going to jump over and create a snapshot. We're going to call this Sunday Service. Create new snapshot, Sunday. We're going to remember to grab playback state, fader levels, console workspace, and that's all. Okay, that's good. We're going to hit OK. Now I'm going to go ahead and release so you can see how this works and change pages. Now I'm going to call up our Sunday snapshot, and that recalls our Sunday cue stack so we can hit our first cue and fade into our first song. Also, we can fade in our front light at any time, and it's not going to be affected by our snapshot. We can then play through our cue stack just the way we programmed it. There's our lead singer cue. There's our fade to black, which is really a fade to blue. And then there's our talk look. Everything looks great, and our 2 faders don't get messed with at any point. All right. Well, that concludes our tutorial for Vista. Thanks for checking it out. Have a great one.